Hello again. This is David. Could be Sir David the Bard, could be the cockroach, disability. I want to do a video on my family. Now, this day and age, I've had a wonderful experience. I've lived so long before your internet, before your AI systems, before so much technology, which is wonderful. It certainly has enhanced the human experience. I see this Ancestry.com idea and program. It's owned by the Mormon Church. You may know that, you may not know that. Is that important? I don't know. I'm not these days sure what's important anymore. But anyway, a lot of you, and I'm starting to get a little curious, but not really, want to know what your heritage is. And humans are funny. Humans are kind of a comical container to be in. They think if they're related to somebody who's famous or intelligent, they're famous and intelligent. That's pathetic. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It reminds me of men who wear a jersey that has a number on it and their team. And when they watch the team play, the men, think that they're somehow rooting for and helping influence the outcome of the game. And it's just silly bullshit that humans, they get tangled in, and it's like a spaghetti factory upstairs. Anyway, a lot of people, I think it's around, as 2023, these videos will go for years and years. But I'm recording this in summer, July of 2023. The price is around $100, and there's 2 or 3 sites, Ancestry.com, and there's 2 or 3 others. You can look them up on your AI system. Anyway, it comes back with a report, and now you can get a genetic report too of predisposition towards certain diseases or other kinds of genetic information. It can be kind of interesting to know what your human body is reflective of, or what is something to be watched, and information. But the point is this: if you're related to famous people, that don't mean shit, unless it was somebody who had big money and you're going to inherit it. God, now it's big shit. I remember my mother, I said this once on another video somewhere, my mother said, you can't polish shit. It's true. I found that out. I've tried to polish shit a lot of my life. You can't polish it. So anyway, those of you who think that if your ancestry is famous, rich, there were kings and princesses and queens and whatever, that you're something special. You're not, and I'm not. Genetics that way don't mean shit. Now, why do I say that? Because you're saying, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know. If my grandfather was Brigham Young, I'm going to have 57 wives too. So anyway, the point is this. I want to point out the silliness in my life. In my life. I'm not saying in your life. Your life could be totally different, and I hope it is. It won't be as miserable as mine has been. If you think being related to somebody or a heritage is who you are, and that you're entitled, or that you're going to be famous, or you're going to be rich, or you're going to be a philanthropist, or whatever, you're silly. You can think that all you want. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I know that that's not true. But you want to pay your $100 to find out that you're probably related to nobody. But anyway, I want to give you my experience, my family. Now, I was raised mostly in California. I was born in Lansing, Michigan, and my parents, when I was very young, and I was the oldest child, moved to California. So I was raised in Arlington, Riverside, California, and Ojai, California. Ojai is by Ventura, and Santa Barbara, California, about 12 miles from the beach, and a beautiful little sleepy community that was a very special place for me to grow up. So, my family, my father was in the United States Navy on the Essex. I think I'm saying it right. Essex, I think it was an aircraft carrier. I don't know. I'm being ignorant here and silly. Anyway, he was in the Navy, and he became a printer, and he worked for the press enterprise down in Riverside, which AI says still exists, and the Ventura Star Free Press. He was a printer. He was a linotype operator. That doesn't exist anymore, but that's what he did. My mom was a beautician. She worked in Ojai in the mall, strip mall, the main street of Ojai, as a beautician. So, I had a pretty normal life. I was spanked now and then, not very often, with a belt, but I didn't have a bloody butt or, abuse in those days. If children were disobedient, it wasn't unusual to spank them, and my parents were not abusive. They never, put us in a corner with no food and dunked our head in the bathtub as a waterboard and, tortured us and whatever. I had a decent childhood and basically a positive, good childhood, especially as a teenager in Ojai. I had a lot of fun. I had a 57 Chevy, beautiful car. I worked for R.C. Merriam of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary Heritage Company. They owned that dictionary company, and he was with Parkinson's disease, and I worked there pretty much full-time while I was in high school as his male nurse, one of his male nurses, helping him eat, go to the bathroom, go in the pool, whatever. So my life was pretty positive there. I wasn't inherited I didn't inherit any kind of fantastic genes from anybody. Now let me put a side note on what's going on. The Mormon Church forced me to do some genealogy, and I didn't want to do it. I could care less who my relatives were, my ancestry. I believed from the very beginning, I am who I am, they are who they are. But the Mormon Church thought it was important because they wanted all those dead names to go in their temple so that the live people paying tithing to the Mormon Church could baptize the dead people. Anyway, I did my genealogy in Ojai, California, and I was pretty young. And I got to a point where I came across a Civil War general. He was General Hooker of the Civil War history. And I thought, I'm related to a Civil War hero. That's what I thought when I was 20. Now I have AI. Shit. Now I learned that my dream of genealogy and being related to somebody famous, that I inherited somebody's intelligence and creativity, that went in the shitter. I found out a few details of General Hooker, one of my relatives. He arranged for females to be available for the men in the army. He was a pimp. I can't take it. I can't take it. This life drives me crazy. He was a general pimp. So he would pick these girls up, bring them to the army men, and they would have sex with them or whatever. Maybe they just went out to dinner. They didn't have sex. Anyway, that was his job. He was my relative. Now, some of you are smart. The rest of you watching me are dumb as a rock, but I don't care. How does that affect me? It affects you. You're the dumb rock. Some of you are smart. You've already thought, I know what he's going to say, and you're right. I'm going to say, the ladies of the evening, the oldest occupation in the world, now they're called sex workers. They're not prostitutes. They're not hookers anymore. That's where they got the damn name hookers from my relative. Now, should that make me feel bad because I'm related to a man who invented the word hookers and was a pimp? How does that make me less of a human being? How does that make me feel guilty that my great ancestor was an asshole and he was a pimp, and he, according to AI, he enjoyed some of the fruits of his labor. It didn't always go to the men of the army. He always had to kind of test the merchandise before he gave it to the soldiers. Anyway, the point I'm making is this. Who you're related to is stupid shit. It doesn't mean anything in this life. You are a unique container that came from somewhere else. Your relative is another unique container that came from somewhere else. We're not even related. The only way we're related is through the human container with genetics and with that connection. Otherwise, these other creatures have nothing to do with us, never did, probably never will. So anyway, back to my point, my family. I was at Brigham Young University studying, not very hard, but studying to get a degree. And I was about 19, maybe 20, and I came home from Provo to Ojai, California, all the time, back and forth to go home between semesters and on Christmas break and whatever. And one of the times that I went, my mother said to me in a shocking way to me, your dad has been molesting your sister. My sister's name is Debbie. And my dad's name, I'm going to give it because he's earned it. George Dwayne Crossett. That's who my dad is. Physically, my human container was half of him, and my mother, Irene Southern Arthur, from Massachusetts. I'm a combination of those two physical containers. Now, certainly my height, maybe my weight, and maybe some of my intelligence I got from my parents. My dad was rumored to have an IQ of 140. I'm not smart enough to even do a damn IQ test, so I don't know. But I do have a son, my oldest son, his IQ is 135. So whether that came out of the air or he brought that to the table, who knows? The point being this. My mother said, your father's been molesting your sister for the last 2 years. And of course, I was a Mormon. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that could include. I didn't know anything. except it probably wasn't a good thing. So, my mother ended up divorcing my father because he had been molesting at least my sister, Debbie. I don't know, and I don't report shit that I don't know, and I don't give subjective ideas. I don't know what he did to her, the specifics of the sex acts. I don't know anything about it, but I do know this. Any sex act with a child is atrocious. It's outrageous. It is in the realm of the most cruel, satanic behavior that a human can perpetrate on another human. Therefore, my father was a child molester. Does that degrade me into being like him, or that I have those genes in me, and that everyone should be careful that the cockroach or the bard came from that stock? Well, a lot of humans believe that. The facts are very different, but the truth and the facts in human experience are always very, very different. So the truth is one way, the facts are another way. Anyway, I was ashamed. I'm ashamed today. God, I'm 75 years old. I'm telling 5 million people, flat out, transparent, my father was a child molester. Well, there's a difference to me, maybe not to you, and that's okay. If a man or a woman, women don't molest very often. It happens, but it's not real often. Child molestation is basically a male-dominated characteristic. If a man has been drinking, he's, out of his mind, drunk, and his daughter comes into the bedroom, doesn't know that he's drunk, and jumps in bed with him, and that man touches his daughter's vagina once, twice at the most. I'm never in a million years going to say that was appropriate. That was forgivable. I'm never going to cross that line. That is not appropriate. That is not forgivable. However, in my wisdom and old age, that circumstance is very different than what my father did. My father continued it years. He knew what he was doing. He was in his right mind. He chose to take advantage of an innocent female. He is a terrible, terrible, evil, satanic person for what he did. Now, is that the whole essence of my father? No. He worked hard, he supported the family, he supported the children, he took us to church, he was honorable in the community, he didn't go to jail, he wasn't a drunk. I have to factor in that part of the human person, my father. He had many good characteristics as a father and as a human being. He had one character flaw that overwhelmed all the other. All the other. His ass belonged in jail. I was young, I didn't know those things. I'm learning here at 75 years old about child molesters, perpetrators, whatever, pedophiles. Anyway, after I found that out, I didn't disown my father. I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't educated enough, and because I was a Mormon, I had to honor my father and respect him, etc. So, my mother divorced his ass, and he ruined my sister's life. Debbie has never been the same. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a human being and as a professional, when a little girl has been molested, she never recovers. It is permanent damage. Permanent. Yeah, she can get counseling. Yeah, she can process it, analyze it, etc. But it's always there. It never goes away, just like a rape. A molestation on a female and a rape on a female is permanent damage. Let me get back to the story. So, I continued to go back to BYU and do my education, and my father decided to get remarried. And I, well, you know, maybe, I say this all the time about the Mormons, maybe he turned over a new leaf. So he married this girl, Diana. Now, there's some funny things about Diana that I just have to put in here, because some of you watch me just for the fun of the video. Others, they look at the principles. Others just turn the damn thing off and go, shit, I'm going to go watch something else. You stupid. Diana was a very large woman, if you know what I mean. I'm a very large man now, diabetic, plus I probably, did this all to myself. I'm 320 pounds right now, sitting in your face. Diana probably was a foot and a half shorter than I am, and she was pushing 350 if she was pushing a pound. Anyway, her weight didn't reflect anything other than her physical container was, like mine, gross and etc. Well, a side note, I had a VW van in those days, and I got into, someone hit me in the front of the van, and I never fixed it, and the passenger door could be ajar now and then. It didn't close all the way, and it was a safety issue, to say the least. So, my dad wanted to buy the van from me. Now he lived in Colorado, not California. And I said to him, Dad, I don't mind selling you the van, but that damn door is dangerous. Whoever sits in that passenger seat could fall out. My dad. God. If he's not molesting little girls, he's being stupid in other ways. So he bought the van, and I was visiting him in Colorado with petite Diana, and he said, well, there's some bad news with my dad. There was always bad news. I said, okay, Dad, what's the bad news now? He said, well, Diana was seriously injured. I said, oh, really? Did she have an accident? What happened? Well, that van you sold us, I went around the corner a little too fast, and the door came open, and she rolled out of the van. Now, I'm laughing because in my mind, a 350-pound woman falling out of a van is as funny as me falling down. It's kind of like a balloon with arms and legs that, is rolling like a basketball. Well, she did. She kind of rolled like a basketball. And as she rolled across the lawn of the stranger's house, she hit and took down the little white picket fence. So they were responsible for damage of her body tearing down the fence of one of the neighbors. So I said, gee, Dad, that's a sad story. I feel really bad. If she was 115 pounds, maybe she wouldn't have rolled so far and took the fence down. Anyway, the story is this. I was visiting my father and Diana in Colorado, and one day I came in, and Diana, the petite wife, was sitting on the couch and crying her eyes out. And I thought, well, is this my business? Did I, get involved in this shit? What is going on here? So, you know me, I turned to her and I said, Diana, what the hell? What's going on? And she was crying, and she said to me, your dad is going to get excommunicated from the Mormon Church. Now, again, I was very young. I didn't have the experience and the knowledge and wisdom that I had now. And I said to myself, and basically to her, well, why? What's the Mormon Church have to do with wanting to excommunicate him? She said, oh, I found him. And Dee Dee was her daughter from another marriage that my dad inherited, a stepdaughter, when he married the blimp. Nice blimp, but a blimp. I said, well, you caught him in the bathroom doing what? They were masturbating each other. I said, oh, my. Now, this is a 10-year-old girl, about the same age as my sister was, when my dad was molesting her. I would really like to describe, but I'm not going to because I'm older now and I have a little bit of common sense. Not much. They were masturbating each other, and I said, well, why were they in the bathroom together? She said, well, your dad was holding his own early morning seminary. He would get Dee Dee out of bed and bring her down to teach her the scriptures. And I thought, well, sounds like a Mormon deal. Sounds like what I've heard many times again about the Mormon men. And my dad appeared to be one of the Mormon men teaching seminary to his daughter in the bathroom. Masturbating each other. I said, well, Diana, what do you think's going to happen? She says, well, there's hope. And I kind of rolled my eyes and I said, okay, what's the hope? Well, he might not get excommunicated. I said, oh, really? Why? Well, this is his first time, and the church may be lenient because it's only the first time that he's ever done anything like this. Now, I'm 20, whatever, 5 years old, I don't know, 26. And I'm saying to myself, I know my dad is a child molester because my sister was molested by him, and my mother divorced his ass because of this character flaw. Now, the Mormon Church says I should be loyal, and you and the not subculture, the human culture basically says I should be loyal. Blood is stronger than what, water? Blood is thicker? I forget what you guys say. It has no meaning to me, but it does to you guys. So I had about 30 seconds to think. Should I be loyal to my father? Should I shut my damn mouth? Shall I just say, gee, I hope everything goes okay, and just walk the fuck away? Let that little girl suffer with that human man. I decided, no, I'm not going to protect my father. He's made this decision. He has to be responsible. He has to accept the consequences. That doesn't bear in on who I am. It bears on who he is. So I said to Diana, I hate to tell you this, Diana, but it's not his first time. he has a pattern and a history of doing this. Well, when a 350-pound woman falls off the couch, there's, a crashing kind of a noise. That was a shock to her. And I'm sure she was not expecting that piece of information. Well, a few days later, my father and I happened to be together, and he said to me, "You had no business telling my new wife about Debbie, the daughter he molested." I said, "Well, Dad, there seems to be a pattern here. You seem to not be able to have good judgment, and you're hurting innocent little girls." "Well, I'm not going to get excommunicated from the Mormon Church." And I said, "No." Now I know. Probably that was going to be true because the Mormon Church covers all this shit up, and their net catches a lot of pedophiles, and they protect them. They sweep the information under the carpet. My Sir David the Bard video shows that over and over again. So anyway, I said, "Well, Dad, why aren't you going to get excommunicated? The Mormon Church says," they don't do, but they say the right things. They don't do the right things. It's a cult. They say, if you repented of your sins, the Lord remembers them no more. My dad took that doctrine and somehow tangled it around his neck as a snake would go around his neck. I told you, I love to go to public hangings. I never bring the rope. The victims always bring their own rope. He took the doctrine of the Mormon Church of repenting, saying it never happened. The Lord does not remember those sins if they've truly been repented of. And now his behavior with Dee Dee, his stepdaughter, is the first time. Well, you judge for yourself. If you're a Mormon, you're going to say, yeah, it was his first time. He should be showed leniency. Well, the rest of us in the world go, that's bullshit. It wasn't his first time. It was a pattern. He's a pedophile. And he was grooming, and he was bringing her down for seminary to get her away from the mom, and to isolate her, and to put her in the bathroom and hide and lock the door, and masturbate her and have her masturbate him. He said to me that day, "I never want to see you or talk to you ever again." Well, okay, how can I stop that? That was my punishment as his son for betraying him and not covering up the atrocious acts that he committed. I later discovered, before my mom divorced him in California, he seemed to have been involved with other little girls in the community. It wasn't just in-house. He was a pedophile outside the house too. I then discovered that he and the blimp, the nice blimp, started a daycare center in Wichita, Kansas. And I had a daycare center in Thousand Oaks, Newberry Park, California. It was during the McMartin fiasco, satanic ritual abuse in daycare centers, etc. I went through that whole situation owning a daycare center in California. I had to make another decision. Hard decisions. These are kind of unheard of combinations of decisions that I had to be involved in. When I found out he owned a daycare center now in Topeka, Kansas, I was a mandated reporter for years and years under Massachusetts, Kansas, Missouri, several states, several school districts. I was a mandated reporter. So I said to myself, well, should I just shut my damn mouth? Should I just get the fuck away from this person and this situation? Do I really want to get involved again in this bullshit? And I said, yeah. After some thought, I called the social services in Topeka, Kansas, and reported to them what I just reported to you. A long story short, I love that phrase, and you know I'm never that way. They shut that daycare center down. My dad was not at that point able to groom and to molest other little girls in the daycare center. Whether he did it in the community thereafter, who knows? Did the Mormon Church ever excommunicate him? No. 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 Did my mother and I and Debbie go to the bishop in Ojai Ward? Yes. 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 Did we tell him what was going? Yes. Yes. Did the Mormon Church ever do anything concerning my father? No. 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 Now, a side note. My dad said to me when this situation was evolving, I've repented. I said, oh really? How did you repent? I went to the bishop and I confessed my sins and I've been forgiven. I thought it was only the Catholic Church priest that could forgive sins, not a Mormon bishop. But anyway, be that as it may, I said, well, I'm going to check out what he said. Because the cricket and the cockroach doesn't buy shit. I've been scammed too much by the Mormon Church. I've become wise. I've been able to smell shit now a mile away. So I went back to Ojai on a visit, and I called Dwayne Owens. I'm going to use names. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. They did this thing. They should be responsible. When they open the Book of Life up, they're going to lay the barred videos down, the Book of Life. They're going to match. Dwayne Owens was my principal of my high school, Nordhoff High School in Ojai. He was the bishop at one time of the Ojai Ward. And I called Dwayne Owens. And he and I were funny because I used to act up in school sometimes, and I get called to the principal's office, and the principal was the bishop of the Mormon Church and my bishop, and he kept saying to me, David, geez, you know, you're putting me in a tough spot, you're being an asshole, and I'm your bishop and I'm the principal, why are you fucking with me like this? So anyway, I called Brother Owens, and I said, my dad molested my sister for years while you were bishop, and he said he called you, confessed, and that basically he repented. Is that true? No. Okay, you're sure? Yes. If I had known that story as a bishop, I would have had him excommunicated. I said, well, I thought so, but I just wanted to see if my father was not only a child molester, but he was a liar too. Yes. He's a liar. He never called me. It never was brought up. I said, thank you very much. Goodbye. I thought, well, you know me, I like details to make sure I'm right. I'm not going to say to 5 million people something that's not right, not true, and get caught with my panties down around my ankles. So George Killian was also the bishop of the Ojai Ward in those days, and I called Brother Killian. Gave him the same story. Got the same response. He never called either one of those bishops. He's a liar. He's a child molester and a liar. Does that make me a bad person? Does my heredity and the stain of having a father that's like that, does that reflect upon me? With some humans, it does. Intelligent humans go, no, David is David. David is his own man. If he did those things, then he has to be responsible. But if his father did that and he didn't do that, that has nothing to do with David. Well, that's the way I believe, and that's the facts, and the way life really is. So, I thought, well, my father's a child molester. I just have to say that, admit that, and I have to take the consequences that he set up for me. I didn't set up any consequences for me, but because human beings have a tendency to categorize and chain link parents to their children and grandchildren, and think if they have rich, famous relatives that they're rich and famous. Well, that's a huge fallacy of the human existence here on this planet. So several years went by, and I have dealt with, I owned daycare centers, I was a substitute teacher, I ran residential treatment centers for emotionally disturbed males and females, and was in charge of a lot of other lives of people. Never had a complaint, never had an allegation, never had any suspicion that I was inappropriate with any of those children in daycare centers and residential centers in 4 or 5 different states in the United States. So I was pretty much acclimated and resigned to the fact that I'm who I am and my father was who he was. Now, a few years ago, I have a brother. His name is Paul Cameron Crossett. Fuck him. That's his name. He lives in Orem, Utah. He was a bishop in Orem, Utah. He's married to his wife, Terry. She's a nurse. And Terry doesn't like our family at all. And I can see why, because my dad's a child molester. I'm bipolar, and my other brother's crazy, so Terry's probably the only sane one in the whole family group. I found out that her husband, my brother, Paul Cameron Crossett, went to do ancestry and DNA testing. He was always a little shorter than the rest of the boys in the family, and he was always a little different. Paul, you know, he wasn't a typical Crossett. He didn't have the air of being a Crossett, and now and then, growing up, people teased him that, you know, that Dwayne was not his father. Well, that was kind of a family joke. God damn. It's not a joke anymore. Paul found out that my father is not his biological father. Shit. Now, you can't polish shit. My mother is now a whore. I thought, wow, my father's a child molester, my mother's a whore, what does that make me? And I thought, I'm who I am. It doesn't matter who and what they did, that doesn't affect me and the creature that I am. Now, this was a typical Mormon family. My father molesting every little girl that moved in his life and in the community. And I don't know, you know, I have to, again, be honest. That's who I am. I'm not my mom and I'm not my dad. It is possible to get pregnant having intercourse one time. That is possible. It's highly, highly unlikely. But it is possible, and I'm going to admit to you right now, I know, I'm not going to go into details, for a fact, you can have intercourse and get someone pregnant the first time and the only time. I've done that. That's happened to me. The odds against that are staggering in at least the third standard deviation. That being aside, I'm saying with my mom, for her to have my brother and get pregnant, having intercourse one time outside of her marriage, is astronomically unthinkable. She was having intercourse more than one time. Was it with more than one man? Who knows? But the facts are the facts. The truth is what you guys believe. The facts are an entirely different set of circumstances. My mother probably had intercourse with more than one man, and probably more than one time, for my brother to be born a bastard outside the family, that he doesn't know who his father is. Through the rumors of the family, they said they thought the father was somehow involved in the military. Well, when we were living in Riverside, California, one of the neighbors across the street was involved in the military. I don't remember who he was or whatever, but is that a possibility? Maybe, I don't know. So, if you want to do Ancestry.com and you want to think you're important because your relatives were important, be my guest. It has nothing to do with who you are. It has nothing to do with who I am. We have certain genetic links to other humans here on this planet. Does that make us morally and spiritually and financially tied to those people? Not really. Our physical bodies, eye color, hair color, size, etc., are linked to those humans because of genetics. But our morality, our integrity, our education, our way of dealing with other humans, and the quality of the people we are has nothing to do. Nothing to do. We bring 90, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit. No, I'm not. No, I'm going to say we bring probably 80% or better to the table of who we were put into a human container. The other 15 or 20% has to do with genetics and has to do with where we were born and what country, and the IQ test, intelligent quotient, basically determining a little bit of who we are. That certainly is part of the human experience, but not the majority. The vast majority of who you and I were, we brought to a fetus human creature. So, let that be as it may. I wanted to let you know a little bit about my nuclear family. It's kind of explosive, a little bit like a nuclear damn bomb. So anyway, I come from a long history of child molesters, prostitutes, and whores. When my mother died, I didn't go to her funeral because of some of the ways she lived her life. I didn't approve of it. She is my mother. I'm thankful for that, yeah. She gave me birth, and I appreciate that, and part of my, half of my body are her genes and my great-grandfather's genes. So I am thankful for that. I'm not thankful for being raised by child molesters and whores. I hope I turned out better than that. I want to be better than that. I'm trying every day to be better than that. So, I only have a few more years left to try to integrate who I am in this human container. I'm sharing it with you. If it helps you, good grief. Lovely. I want to help. I want the world to be a better place. I know that humans make bad judgments. We all do, because we don't have all the information. I didn't know my father was a child molester. I didn't know my mother was a whore. I grew up a pretty happy kid, pretty normal kid. Didn't get arrested. I never had delinquency problems. I had 1 or 2 tickets, speeding in my car. That was pretty much my greatest sins as a teenager. But if this story helps you, it's interesting to you, great. If it's not, you should have never listened to it. I'm gonna get up. I'm old. I'm fat. I'm gonna turn the video off. Sir David the Bard, Cockroach Disability,